So this is 33 and 34 we'll be discussing. And so I'll explain the meaning of the each line. We'll recite the line and then we'll recite the verse together. So Sadrishyam Cheshtate Swasyaha. So Sadrishyam means accordingly. Cheshtate, Cheshta is endeavor. So Cheshtate is endeavor. Swasyaha, according to one's own. Sadrishyam Cheshtate Swasyaha. So what of one's own? Prakriti, one's nature. Hmm. So everybody endeavors according to their nature. So everybody endeavors according to their nature. And who are these people? Prakriti Jnanavanapi. Even if somebody has jnana, even when a person has knowledge, that actually I am not my body, still their nature is there with them. So even the Jnanavan endeavor according to their nature. Prakriti Jnanavanapi. And then he says, this is the universal principle. Prakritim yanti bhutani. According to the nature, yanti, go, move. Bhutani, all living beings. Prakritim yanti bhutani. Nigraha. Nigraha is repression. Kim karish. Krishna is asking a rhetorical question over here. So, Nigraha kim karishyasi sadrusham cheshtate swasyaha prakriter jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyasi. Okay, it's karishyati. Sorry. Nigraha kim karishyati. So one last time we'll recite responsively, and after that we'll recite it collectively. Okay. So now responsively once. Sadrusham cheshtate swasyaha prakriter jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Now together one last time. Sadrusham cheshtate swasyam prakrite dhyananapi prakrite yanti bhutani nigraha kim harishyati. Thank you. So in this particular section of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is making a very interesting point. And this point can seem very contradictory to the general way we understand the philosophy. So here Krishna is saying, what can repression accomplish? We may say, no, that's what we all do, isn't it? We told we have to give up our desires, material desires are illusory. So when Krishna is saying, what can repression accomplish? So there is uh, one so-called spiritual teacher. You know, in India, there are demigods and then there are semi-gods. You know what are semi-gods? Say me gods. What it means is, I want to be God. So I'm God. So there's one particular teacher for whom this is his favorite verse. And his philosophy is, it's not philosophy, it is philosophy. In the sophistry of fools, the wordplay of fools. Anyway, he says, this is the essential teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. What can repression accomplish? But whatever desire you have, just indulge in it. That is the philosophy of Sambhog Samadhi. Just the Gita says repression cannot accomplish anything. Therefore, just indulge. And the idea is from indulgence, you will come to transcendence. But indulgence, indulgence is where somebody enjoys the sense, eat as much as you want, engage in as much sexual activity as one wants. So indulgence. So that theory is that indulgence will lead to transcendence. Mhm. But actually, indulgence only leads to ignorance. So we will discuss this idea a little later. What are the basis for it? But this verse, when Krishna is saying, what can repression accomplish? So if he were referring that, okay, just enjoy your senses. If that were what Krishna was referring to, then in the very next verse, this is the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Does anyone remember the verse we discussed just now? The number? 33, yes. The 33rd verse. Now, after that, is 34th verse, what we're discussing today in the later session, second half. There, Krishna is saying that you have to don't give into attachment and aversion. Hmm? And then immediately after that, 36, Arjuna is asking what impels us to self destructive activity. And then 37 to 43 is entirely an answer, and it's all about disciplining oneself. It's all about combating karma. So, if Krishna's whole point was what can repression accomplish, and that meant literally just engage in your senses, then what about the next verses? Immediately next verses. There's the immediate next verses and then the immediate next section. So, it's not that at all. So, here, when we look at the Gita is a very nuanced book. And because it is nuanced, because the Gita is so nuanced, it can often lead to different people perceiving the Gita's wisdom differently. So we'll try to understand what is going on. So when we use the word conditioning, so what do you think this word means? Conditioning. Okay, let me start with this. Before you were introduced to Bhagavad Gita and Bhakti, how many of you had heard the word conditioning before? Yeah, you had heard. Special. I had never heard. I had heard condition, I had heard conditioner, air conditioner. So okay, so okay, based on your those of you had heard about the word conditioning before, what was your understanding of the word conditioning? Yes. So when I was giving my NTSC exam, they had asked me, "Have you heard the word acid rains?" So I said yes. What does it mean? I have only heard the word. So laughing at this and that, we cannot give you marks for the content, but we'll give you marks for the courage. I got the scholarship. So your understanding of conditioning is like that. Anyway, yeah, what does conditioning mean? Consciousness. Okay. Level of consciousness. Okay, let's look at it. Anything else? Conditioning.
Before Bhakti, I used to think that it means how a person behaves to certain circumstances or situations.
Okay, so behavior in circumstances. So we could connect. Yes, that's good. Now you don't have to tell the meaning before Bhakti also. If you want one more, you can tell that. And you can also tell how you understand the word now. Yes, please.
Belief system.
Conditioning refers to our belief system. And belief system, can it be changed? Yes, of course, it can be changed, isn't it? That's what we want for many of us, especially. So, yeah, the belief system is an interesting way of looking at it. We'll come back to this. Yeah. Three modes are effectiveness. Okay, the effect of the three modes that comes in the form of conditionings. If you are talking from a new person's perspective, your explanation will need an explanation. Because what are the three modes that question will come up? But that's good point. Effect of the three modes. Anything else? What conditioning means? You had a comment? Answered already. Okay. So yes, all of these are valid answers. The word conditioning, we'll try to incorporate these answers as we move forward. So conditioning, it is associated with the word, two words. Condition. Hmm, that's one word. The other is conditional. Conditional means, say now from Amazon, if we buy a product and they say you can return it within 7 days. But conditional to the fact that the product should not be damaged. It's conditional, means based on certain terms, certain conditions. So basically, the word conditioning means that the soul is almost programmed to act in particular ways in particular conditions. The soul's behavior, because behavior in circumstances, the behavior is subject to conditions. So now, how much is it subject? We'll look at that. Behavior is subject to conditions. So, for example, what this could mean is somebody is an alcoholic and they go to a bar. If they go to a bar, do they have the free will to not drink? They have everybody has free will, but the high probability is that as soon as they see a bottle of alcohol in a bar, as soon as they go to a bar, there'll be no bar for their drinking. They'll just start and drink. Sarvadharman parityajya maya mekam sharanam vraja. So, conditioning means that in certain conditions, our behavior tends to be in particular ways. So, if somebody is short tempered, that means if anything doesn't go according to their will, immediately they start getting angry. They start yelling, maybe start attacking. So, conditioning means that our conditions affect our behavior. And the stronger the conditioning, the greater is the effect on our behavior. Because somebody is just a casual drinker, or they say social drinker. Then, if they just visit somebody's house, they see a drink, they may or may not drink. But if they go to a party, then, oh, everybody's drinking, I should drink. I don't want to be the odd person out. So, but somebody is an alcoholic, if they go to some place, even as soon as they enter the house, are there any drinks over here? That's what they, so it's more compulsive. So, basically, behavior is subject to conditioning. That means conditioning. We will tend to think, feel, desire, and act in a particular way. That's conditioning. So, now conditioning itself is just a fact of life. Sometimes we think of conditioning as negative, as bad, and that is definitely there. But there is more to it. In the Mahabharata, when the Pandavas were disguised as Brahmanas, when were they disguised? Does anyone remember? When did they have to take on the guise of a Brahmana? Yes? Yes, after the house of Lac was burned and they fled from there. So there they eventually went to Drupada's kingdom. Does anyone know which was that kingdom? The place? Panchal, yes. And there they won the hand of Draupadi. Now Drupada was a little taken aback initially. He had expected a king to marry his daughter, but he's a prince. Who are these Brahmanas? He wanted to know. So he called them after they had married. He called them to the house for a celebration, for a feast. And when they had called him, he asked them to sit in a room. He said, "Wait, we are arranging for the food." And they're sitting on the other side. There was a table, and on that table, he had kept various kinds of paraphernalia. So he had kept some paraphernalia for worship, some arti plate and some bells, and now he was a king. So everything that he had was quite ornate and special. Then next to that there were some weapons, Then there was some plow and some farming equipment, and then there were some artisans equipment. Some artistic work, some various kind of pottery equipment and other things. And he, along with his son Drishtadyumna, they went out and they watched from a discreet window. The Pandavas sat down in the room, they looked around, they're talking, and then they saw the table, and all of them walked toward the table, and all of them went straight where? To the weapons. See, there were scriptures also over there, but they went straight to the weapons. And they all picked up Bhima. He did not know it was Bhima, but he straight picked up a mace and started whirling it around. And Arjuna picked up a bow and started twanging it. And the twang started resonating everywhere. Yudhishthir picked up a spear. The twins picked up swords. And they started brandishing the weapons and they started discussing the weapons. And they became lost in thought. And as they were lost in thought, Drishtadyumna and Drupada look at each other and smiling. They are not Brahmanas. They are Kshatriyas. So, conditioning also refers to this. That there are certain things which we will naturally be attracted to. So, our behavior, so the Pandavas, the conditioning is the way our behavior is subject to our conditions. Now, this is a conditioning that is there. Like Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra could also be called a conditioning. This is a conditioning that it doesn't have to be eliminated. That has to be engaged. So our conditionings, we could put it in two distinct categories. Now, terms have many different meanings. Mhm. Um, so, for example, if we take the word kal in Hindi, mm, somebody asks the question, ये कब कब इसका डेट क्या है कल. Now, कल मतलब हो गया कल या होने वाला कल. Which is it referring to? It's difficult to know. So sometimes words have multiple meanings, and we have to be careful about which meaning is being used. In English, the word run has over 500 meanings. Hmm? I'm going for a run. I'm running because my car has stopped running. I'm running because that person is ready running for president, and I'm going to run away from this country. So the word run can have many different meanings. So if somebody says, oh, he took my money and ran away to Australia, and somebody else asks, how did he run over the ocean? So it's a different meaning, isn't it? So words have different meanings. So in English, there's one word which has more than 500 meanings. In Sanskrit, there are more than 500 words which have more than 500 meanings. So when words have many meanings, it requires the intelligence of the hearer, the converser, to understand which meaning is being referred to. So I'll use these two words over here. There is our varna, hmm, from which our vritti comes. The word vritti has many different meanings, but I'm using this associated with varna. And then there is vasana. Hmm. So vasana is associated with anarthas. So for example, in English, we could call this as inclination. And here we could call this as craving or impurity. Impurity. So vasana is impurity in terms of craving. Hmm. So if I say this person is attracted towards music. So is music attraction towards music, is it vritti or vasana? Vritti? Yes. If somebody says that, no, I I always think about money. I can't think of anything except money. What would we consider that? Vasana. So kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. These are vasanas. Now, the vasanas need to be regulated and purified. Hmm. Now, the vritti needs to be directed and purified. Now, regulation can be to different degrees. Hmm. But say, for example, when we may have greed for food. If it's Ekadashi, the regulation means maybe no food. If it's Panirjal Ekadashi, or if you have craving for grains food. So, on Ekadashi, no grains. So, regulation can be to different degrees. But with respect to the vritti, that doesn't need to be regulated. Mhm. If somebody has musical interest and musical ability, they don't have to give that up. Now, that also needs to be purified. But the purification is by directing it properly. They're two different things. So, when Krishna is talking about in this particular verse, what can repression accomplish? What do you think is he referring to? Vritti or Vasana? What can repression accomplish? Vritti, yes. So, this, the word 333 in the Gita is referring to Vritti. And in 334, as well as the whole section 336 to 43, is referring to Vasana. So, we will explore both these in our two sessions. Let me explain the context. And so, today, now I'll talk about, in this session, I'll talk about Vasana. And in the second session, we'll talk about Vritti more and more. Hmm. But let's look at it from the context of the Bhagavad Gita itself. What is going on? So, why was the Gita spoken? Why did Krishna speak the Gita to Arjuna? Yes? Okay, because the chain of disciple section was broken. Okay, that's like a transcendental reason. It's true. Or circumstantially. What was the immediate need for the Gita to be spoken? Anyone who has not answered till now? Yes, please.
Because Arjuna said to him,
Okay, because Arjuna was refusing to fight. Thank you. Why was Arjuna refusing to fight? Yes. Who has not answered? You have answered?
He has forgotten the absolute truth, why he was fighting. He has forgotten the reason to fight.
He has forgotten the absolute truth. That's true from ultimate perspective. What was Arjuna's immediate concern that caused him hesitation to fight? Yes. Clash in two dharmas.
So they both were classes.
Yes. So he was hesitant to fight because of his Kula Dharma and his Kshatriya Dharma. So among the Kula Dharma and the Kshatriya Dharma, he did not know which was the cool Dharma, which was the right thing to do. So, because he did not know what was cool, he became hot. And, his hand started trembling and the bow started slipping from his hand, his hair started standing on end. He became overwhelmed. So now, when this happened, essentially, Arjuna was saying that, oh, I can forgive. I can just forgive and forget. Let them, even if they are acting out of greed. यद्यप्येते न पश्यन्ति लोभोपहत चेतसा, that they are blinded by greed and they don't understand the destruction they are causing. But I understand what destruction really caused. So why should I be motivated by similar greed for a kingdom? So he said, I don't want to fight. He says, even if I don't have a kingdom, even if they have robbed me of my kingdom, Paikshamapiha loke, I live as a beggar. It's better that I don't kill. So the issue here was that, see, Arjuna was he was a Kshatriya. He was in the Kshatriya role, and he was thinking of doing a Brahmana activity. Now, what is the difference between Kshatriya and Brahmana? It's actually very different. If you look at it later on in the 18th chapter, 1842 and 1843, Krishna talks about the qualities of a Brahmana and Kshatriya. So, Shamo, Damastapa, Shaucham, Shantirarjamam Evacha, Jnanam, Vijnanam, Astikyam. So the one of the characteristics of a Brahmana is Shantir. It's peacefulness, it's forgiveness. Anybody does some wrong, just forgive them. Let them get it. Don't make things bigger. But on the other hand, a, a Kshatriya's characteristic is what? Yuddhe chapya apalayanam. Teja. So it is Dhruti. Daksham. Yuddhe is fighting. Chapya apalayanam. It is not running away from a confrontation, not running away from a fight. So forgiving means avoiding a fight and avoiding a fight. So not running away from a fight. So you could Shanti means avoiding a fight. Don't fight, it's not a big thing. But rather, Yuddhe chapya apalayanam. Don't run away from a fight. So what it means is you should avoid avoiding a fight. If a fight is required, you should fight. These are, in one sense, opposite virtues. So, why are they opposite virtues? If we consider, you have heard that there's one commentator on the Gita who says the Gita is a book of non-violence. Now, see, the Gita is certainly not a book of violence in the sense that the Gita is not simply telling everybody who follow the Gita should take up weapons and start fighting. That's not the message of the Gita. The Gita's message is not a message of violence, but nor is it a message of silence or non-violence. It is a message of transcendence. Transcendence means that act in harmony with the divine will. Transcend your normal selfish motives and think what is God's will over here. Act in accordance with that will. That is the purpose. But now the idea of non-violence is also mentioned in the Gita. Ahimsa, for example. But that's not a central teaching of the Gita. To say that non-violence is the central message of the Gita is to do violence to the Gita. You know how violence sometimes the police have caught somebody who is not a criminal and they're not a criminal, but they want to frame that person. You know, frame, the meaning of frame. That means blame that person, although they're not done the crime. So they beat the person, beat the person. You did this crime? No, I didn't. Beat the person, beat the person, beat the person. So you keep beating, keep beating, keep beating. And then finally, maine kiya. So generally this is confession by torture. And normally in law, it's not administered, it's not accepted. Like some you torture someone and get a confession. So like that, there are some Gita commentator, there is a torture by translation. The Gita is saying something different, but no, it has to say this. It has to say this. So that's why sometimes people will come with all kinds of conclusions about the Gita. So Prabhupada will say that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. That is Bhagavad Gita as you are. So anyway, the Gita is not a book of non-violence. It is not a book of violence. It is a book of transcendence. So non-violence or forgiveness is an important virtue. But it's important to understand something about forgiveness. See, forgiveness is an individual virtue. And as individual virtue, it is good. But if forgiveness becomes the state policy, no, that is terrible. Say, for example, if you invited a friend to our house and they're staying in our house and at that time they rob something from our locker, we'll be upset. We'll be angry, but then we confront the friend. He says, "Oh, actually, I had some emergency in my home. My son was sick and I got tempted and I took this." We may say that, if you'd asked me, I would have given you money. Why do you steal like this? But once we understand, we may forgive. It's not a good thing, but we can forgive. But if the state makes it a policy, if anybody goes to anybody's home, they rob, we will forgive you. That would be a disaster. Actually, they tried this in California. When the pandemic was going on, they said, "Oh, so many people have been laid off, people don't have jobs." So they made a rule that if anybody breaks into any supermarket, any mall, if they rob anything below $750, they're poor people, they want food, they want necessities, they rob anything below $750, they'll not even be arrested. They'll not even be charged. When they made this announcement that people will not be charged, people went on a charge. And people were going there and they were buying Louis Vuitton purses and all kind of luxury items and then selling them on eBay and making money. So the point is, forgiveness is good as an individual virtue, but forgiveness cannot be the state policy. And Arjuna, when he is saying, "Oh, I'll forgive the Kauravas," he is saying that in the individual capacity that is good. But Arjuna is a Kshatriya. Arjuna is a representative of the state. If somebody has committed a crime, the police cannot say, "I will forgive you." And that is for the judge to decide. The victims have to be involved. You cannot just make an absolute decision like that. So essentially, when Krishna is saying Nigraha Kim Karishyasi, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you are a Kshatriya. How long will you act like a Brahmana? You cannot do that. He says, today you feel, oh, they have done some terrible wrongs to me, but I forgive them. But Kshatriyas are protectors. They're guardians. Mm. Now, tomorrow, if you say I'm going to take a Brahminical role, I'm going to renounce the world. Okay. Tomorrow you hear about Duryodhan committing further atrocity to someone else. At that time, the protector in you will want to erupt. You want to stop it at that time. But if you have chosen to take on the role of a Brahmana and then again you try to do the role of a Kshatriya, that will be inappropriate for you. That will be adharmic. So you are a Kshatriya, stay true to your nature. Krishna is telling Arjuna. So you are a Kshatriya, you fight. Now, of course, while fighting, one does not have to fight unregulatedly, and that comes in the next verse. We'll discuss this. But the point is, with respect to our conditionings, the varna is not to be suppressed. Hmm? Uh, Purification or spiritual discipline doesn't mean suppressing our varna. Krishna is telling Arjuna, Nigraha kim karishyasi. What will it accomplish? It won't accomplish anything. That nature will come out eventually. Now, somebody can they say that, oh, alcoholism is my nature. Well, no, that is not your nature. That is the craving that is there. That needs to be purified. And we'll talk about purification of that a little later. But here, if somebody has a nature, they say. Now, even within the nature, as I said, the nature has to be the swabhava, the varna that one has. That also has to be directed and purified. Now, directed means sent in a particular direction. So if you have a canal or a channel, water can go in any direction. You have to make sure the water goes in a particular direction. So that's what Krishna talks about in the next verse. Let's look at the next verse. So I'll explain the verse. Indriyasya indriyas arthe. That means between the senses and the sense objects. Indriyasya indriyasyarthe. Raga dvesha. Raga is I like this, dvesha I don't like this. Vyavasthitau. Sthitau means situated. It is naturally situated. For all of us, we have certain set of likes and dislikes. Raga dvesha vyavasthitau. Tayor, to those, na vasham agachet. Don't come under their control. Don't go under their control. Tayor navasham agachet. Now, these two, yes, certainly are paripanthinau. Panthi is path, pari is robbers. So when you're going on a particular path, these two can be your robbers. They will steal what is valuable from you. Tau yasya paripanthinau. So, what does this mean? Let's try to understand this. The nature of the mind and with its conditioning is such that even something we like, hmm, two things. We don't always like it, and we don't like everything about it. So, for example, say one of my services are ready. So when I'm writing, I love getting absorbed in thoughts, in articulating those thoughts, and evaluating how well the words have been chosen. That part I like. But writing doesn't involve only that. It involves proofreading, involves typesetting, it involves layout, it involves nowadays every author has to do the publicity of their own book, has to do marketing. Now, all that I don't like. Now, every activity that we do, somebody say likes music. Now, they may like music, but if you actually want to make a career out of music, there are so many other things you need to do, isn't it? They may not like that. Mm. On the other, so we all in even in the activity that we do, we don't like everything about it. That's just natural. Uh, the tennis player Andre Agassi, he said, I like everything about tennis except tennis. So his father forced him to play, and he did become a good player. He had natural talent. But he said, because my father forced me to play it, I just dislike it so much. So he said, I like the traveling, I like the adventure, I like the celebrity status. So I like everything about tennis except tennis. That's not a very healthy mental state to be in. But the point is that even the thing that we do, we may not like it always. Isn't it? Somebody likes, maybe somebody say doing some art. Mm. Or even some people just like coding, some people like math. Mm. So whether it's art or science or whatever. So even somebody likes coding, they're doing coding, and after some time the coding just doesn't seem to work. And in trying to find the bug with the code, a bug comes in our head. There's a bug there, and the bug there is bugging me. You get irritated, we get frustrated, isn't it? So even the thing that we like, we don't like all the time. So we have to be careful even while we are doing something we like. Either we don't get carried away by dvesha. Oh, I don't like, I'll give it up. Nor do we get carried away by raga. If somebody says, "Oh, I like coding so much, so I'll just do coding." Okay, that's good. But everybody has multiple dimensions in their life, isn't it? Everybody needs a relationship, for example. Everybody needs some fulfillment in life. So, along with Varna, within the tradition, there is ashram. Nobody is satisfied with only a career. Nowadays, with feminism rising more and more, women often say that, oh, why should we stay at home only? We also want our career. That's fair enough. The working women were a part of Indian society. We had the fruit vendor who was selling fruits. We had the gopis who were selling butter. It was only during the Mughal times that, because of safety considerations, women's social condition became a little more restricted. But the point is, Varna and ashram both are important. Why should we be taking care of homes? Why can't we have our careers? And somebody said, we only want careers. We won't want to be mothers at all. In India, even now, most places, if a couple doesn't have a child, you know, it's a childless. It's a sad state. People try to great extent to have a child. In the West, a woman doesn't say I'm childless. Say I'm child free. I'm child free. As if a child is a burden or a nuisance or an honor. I'm child free. It's tragic. The parenting is a privilege. And so the point is that even men, when they are pursuing a career, the most men will not be satisfied only with varna. They need a ashram. Why am I working so hard to earn money? So that I can have a family to take care of. So everybody needs varna and ashram both. So now traditionally you can say a man's focus is more on varna than the ashram. In the sense that a man focuses more on earning and of course they have to take care of the family. Traditionally a woman's focus was more on ashram than on varna. So in the past, the jobs were arranged in such a way that women could also work without necessarily having to neglect their ashram. They could do home duties and along with that they could do some other work also. But after industrialization, jobs started going far away from homes and things became more disruptive. But the point I'm making over here is somebody based on their varana can become unidimensional. That means I will fixate only on this. Okay, I like sports. One of my friends has done his PhD in like in India there is cricket, in America there's baseball. So the NBA, the in baseball, basketball, both of them are very big. And so the he has done his PhD on the post celebrity lives of sports stars. So what happens is, if the sports is a baseball or basketball or rugby or whatever, if that is the sole passion of their life, now what happens is there are some careers, sports and movie stars, especially movie female stars, their career doesn't have a very large longevity. In sports, in cricket or in baseball, if you're 40, like you're a dinosaurus. People want to take photo of a dinosaurus. That's all. So what do they do after that? If that has been their sole identity, if the raga for that is so great that they neglected friendship, they neglected relationships, there's nothing else to their life, then they just sink into depression. Some of them even become suicidal and they get into addiction and they squander millions and $1 million away. So the point is, even when we are doing something we like, we cannot get so caught in it that we neglect everything else. And we just neglect everything else. If you look at Indian cricket history, or cricket history in general, Brian Lara and Sachin Tendulkar are both considered spectacularly talented and both did well. But celebrity brings with its own cost. So Tendulkar always had a supportive family. So Lara came from a broken family, and then he went to such a depression. At one time, he just retired from cricket. Not retired, just went out of cricket. And then he came back and he tried to play again. He played well somewhat. So there are Varna is important, but ashram is also required. If that is not there, a person cannot face the ups and downs of life. Everybody, even the best of players, will go out of form at times. So Varna will have some ups and downs. Now, of course, the ultimate ashray comes not from family, it comes from Krishna. But the idea of ashram, of shelter, is there. So the point I'm making over here is that that everybody needs Varna and ashram both. So when Krishna is saying raga and dvesha, avoid that. That raga is, don't get so caught in your varna that you forget everything else. And dvesha means that, oh, this is so difficult about this. So, for example, somebody is like say, sometimes there's one Pakistani cricket player. He retired 9 times. Finally, 10th time he got retired. There's one commentator said, "Now we are tired of your becoming retired." So what happened was he played and he got frustrated while playing. Maybe he was out of form and he was not selected. He said, "I retire." But if that is what the Varna is, you it's still maybe 32, 33 when he retired. Then he said, "Oh, I'm going to come out of my retirement. I'm going to come out of my retirement." Again he got I played, again he didn't play well, again he retired. So that is Dvesh. Yeah, even anything that we do in life, even if we like to do it, it's not going to be a bed of roses. Life is tough. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, you have to fight against relatives. That is tough to do. But that is a part of the bargain. Don't just give it up. Because this is an important part of who you are. We are ultimately souls. But right now, we have a particular set of inclinations. And we need to harmonize our life with that. So, this is the first part that Krishna is telling here, that we all have to, what will repression accomplish? Should I say that it will, you can, if you're a Kshatriya, you cannot give up being a Kshatriya. You can have some warm water. I think that has some kada, actually, not warm water. Just check what is that. Okay. So I'll make one more important point and then we'll open for question answers. So now we may say, okay, all this sounds good, but how do I know my Varna? Hmm. So if Krishna is telling that we should act according to our Varna, okay, thank you. So Krishna is saying the role of Jnana. He says, so, Prakriter Jnanavan api. Hmm. So the role of jnana is not for repressing our nature. Our prakriti. It is not meant for repressing. Jnana is for directing. Directing means you can say rejecting raga and dvesha, like and dislike. So, for example, if there is a water body over here, now if we build this color visible there, so if we build a canal, then what will happen is the water will go here. So, by this, the water won't go this way. So, what Krishna is telling is that we all need to regulate. So, we could say is avoid raga, avoid dvesha. That way we can direct whatever our God given gifts are constructively. So now with respect to Varna, so our topic was managing our conditionings. So I started by saying that our conditionings have two parts to it. So Vritti and Vasana. So we are right now talking about which one? Vritti. So now what do we do with the Vritti? We we have to discover it first of all. Now what is it? So there are the key principle with respect to understanding Varna is Guna and Karma. Now these words have many different meanings to it. Now, the way I understand this is when we have the guna for something, we have the quality for doing something, we are comfortable doing that thing. We feel at peace, we feel happy, yeah, we feel content when we do it. Hmm. So maybe the many of us are not I use the word comfortable, and immediately I was giving a class in America. There was one Prabhupada disciple. He was sitting there. He said, we shouldn't be in our comfort zone. I said, that is not the kind of comfort I was talking about. So he said that I said, yeah, I know that, but I'm not comfortable with the word comfortable. So I said, okay, we could use the word. There is contentment. We feel content doing something. Hmm? Content means satisfied. Like some people say I have inclination for music. Then when they feel agitated, just take a harmonium and start singing. And they just forget everything else. Now, for them, it's a very relaxing, rejuvenating activity. Somebody who does not have much of a musical sense, for them, practicing music is not relaxing, it is exhausting. Itna concentrate, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that. For example, reading. Some people just have a natural habit of reading. So if they have a natural habit of reading, for them, reading is exhilarating. Yeah, I learn new things. For somebody for whom reading is not a habit, no, reading is a tapasya. So it's exhausting. So now, of course, we have to sometimes do things which is exhausting. But guna means that activity, it gives us contentment. It's relaxing. It's rejuvenating for us. And karma is competence. We are good at doing something. Now, first is we feel good doing that activity. And second is we are good at doing that activity. So we could say guna and karma. So we are content doing something and we are competent to doing something. So now, of course, there could be areas in which we are content, but we are not competent. Like some people, they pick up a kartal and they start playing it. And they have no sense of tal, but they have no sense that they don't have no sense of tal also. So they are in ecstasy playing kartal, and everybody around them is in agony. What are you doing? So if we are content at something, but we are not competent, then there's a slight problem. We have guna, but we don't have the karma for it. On the other hand, Somebody may be competent at it, but they may not be content doing it. Like I was giving the example of the sports player, Andre Agassi. He said he was good at tennis, the world number one for a good amount of time also, but he just was not satisfied with tennis. He didn't want to explore many things. That's also possible. So some people may be good at many things, but then they may be good at many things, but sticking to one thing may not be the thing that they are good at. So, just keep jumping from one thing to another to another. So, if we can find out some area where we are both content and competent, we're doing it, we feel satisfied, and we are also able to make a contribution, then that is a pointer to our Varna. So, understanding Varna is not simply about putting ourselves in one category over here. I'm a Brahman, I'm a Kshatriya, I'm a Vaishya, I'm Shudra. That's not the key thing. That's important, but that's not the essential thing. Because even among Brahmanas, there are wide kind of Brahmanas. Kshatriyas, Yudhishthira is a Kshatriya, Bhima is a Kshatriya. But are they the same? There's a spectrum, you could say Yudhishthira is a very Brahminical Kshatriya, isn't it? Try to settle things peacefully. Whereas Bhima is, you could say, Kshatriya Kshatriya. Kshatriya squared. You see? Hmm? So now what happens is that there is a spectrum in all of this. So the point is, for all of us, while we are going through life, when we are doing various services, when we are pursuing our careers, life will put us in different situations. And we go through the situations. We get a particular kind of job. We have a particular kind of internship or a project. We have different kinds of services when we are uh, practicing bhakti. So while doing all these, we also observe ourselves. And while observing ourselves, we try to find out what is it that we feel content doing. Make a list of those things. You may say, I don't feel content doing anything. Well, then maybe you have a very high standard of contentment. Then just put it a spectrum, okay? Relatively speaking, I feel very restless doing this one thing, but I feel much more or much less restless. I don't feel at rest, but at least I feel less. I feel less restless doing one thing. So, the same way, I was in Singapore some time ago and I met one of my college students. He's the CEO of a big company. And when he was in our college, he was considered like a dumb student. So, no, he was not very poor, hardworking, but he didn't really have a lot of engineering IQ. So, there are two students who were always competing to be among the top, and our our mm, we were all doing a project for a company, and that project guide, he put both these students together, and he put this boy as a third, and he said, "Sir, I'm nowhere equal to them. If you put me between them, I'll get crushed between them." He says, "No, I'm putting you between them. I'm putting you with them, not so that you get crushed, so that they don't smash each other." So he said, I'll see that you are able to manage people well. So, and that's what he did. And he was studying engineering, but that's the time he discovered that his ability was not so much in technical ability, but more in social skills. There's these people with phenomenal talent, but they have their egos. So he managed to become like a lubricant between the two of them. And that's when he discovered his skill. He said, then I studied MBA, and now he's a CEO of a big company. So he was studying engineering, but engineering was not really, technical side was not really his comfort zone. Where he was either content or competent. But he found something else. So self-observation. So whatever we are doing in our life, we do that. Don't give it to rag and dvesh. No, I'm not going to do this. I'm only going to do this. So whatever we have to do, we go through it in life, but keep observing ourselves. And by self-observation, we'll find out what are what is our guna and what is our karma. What are the gifts that we have? And even if you can find one thing which is at the intersection of being content and being competent, then that can be the strength for us. That is what will enable us to move ahead in our life, to be empowered, to make tangible contributions. Ultimately, for each one of us, Krishna has given us some gifts and he wants us to use those gifts. So we ultimately use them for Krishna. How we use them for Krishna, that will depend on a particular ashram, that will become a particular situation. But before we can use any of the gifts for that Krishna has given us, we have to also discover those gifts. So discovering and developing those gifts. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you are gifted as an archer. So be an archer and don't give into dvesha or raga just because you're in a difficult situation, right? So by self-observation, we also, so in one sense, the Gita helps us to distance ourselves from our conditions. See, somebody, as I said, somebody has phenomenal musical ability. But sometimes what happens is people who identify too much with their musical ability, they can become very egoistic, isn't it? I am such a great musician, and you people don't know anything at all. So when we see that something is a gift or something is a talent that I have, if we identify with it too much, then we'll become attached, we'll become egoistic. But if you understand, this is a gift given to me by Krishna, and I have it right now, let me use it. So I am a soul, my body, mind, machine has this particular gift. Let me use it. Then one can use that music or whatever ability one has very nicely. And so I'll give example of both of these. That there was one temple I was associated for a long time. So there's one devotee, phenomenally musically talented. Hmm. So he said, I want to learn traditional Bengali style music. So he went to Bengal for 2 3 years. He stayed there and studied, and he learned, and he came back excellent. And when he would sing Bengali bhajans and all these are part of our tradition, devotees loved it. But then what happened? He had studied music so much that whenever anybody else would do kirtan, you start finding faults. Hey, you're singing this too long. You're doing this too long. This is not right. This is not right. This is not right. And finally, he told the managers, he says, nobody in this temple knows how to do kirtan. So in the entire morning program, I alone will sing. And he said, I will sing everything because nobody else knows how to sing. Then the manager said that let's talk with the spiritual master. The spiritual master said that singing is your ability, but don't let your ability steal your humility. He said that we are here to serve Krishna, and our ability should not overpower or override our service attitude. Krishna is pleased by bhakti. Krishna is not just pleased by excellence. And that devotee is also singing. If somebody is an outstandingly bad singer, then we may tell them don't sing in public. You can sing for Krishna's pleasure and your pleasure. But everybody is singing. You should sing. And there are some special occasions. Of course, you'll be given an opportunity to sing. So one should not go too much in that direction. Now, somebody has very good singing ability. Either they can become proud, but I know another devotee who is also excellent singer. But he's always, when he associates devotees, he's always talking about their abilities and appreciating their abilities. And then he talks about what are the challenges they face in serving Krishna with their abilities. So somebody is good at fundraising, somebody is good at say preaching, somebody is good at cultivating. There's somebody is good at managing. So everybody has certain abilities. Everybody's trying to serve according to their abilities. Everybody faces some challenges. So what is amanina? Manatena. If I don't let my ability become my sole identity, on the other hand, I recognize that others also have abilities. Maybe their abilities are not as special as my ability. Maybe their ability is not to that much degree as my ability, but everybody has ability. So the point is that when we have ability, the raga to that ability We're too attached to that ability, it will steal our humility. So we don't want that. Our ability should not steal our humility. But if sometimes the people go to the opposite, they say dvesh. Like some people say that, if I like doing something, then I'm not doing this for Krishna's pleasure. It's sense gratification. So I'll not do it. Well, no. Krishna has given you the ability to use in his service. I go to Australia every year. So there's one person, one devotee. He comes and sits right in front. And throughout the class, he's just glaring at me. Not even staring, glaring. Even if there is some humor, there's not even a flicker of laughter on his face. He's just glaring. The only way I can give a class over there is by looking at everyone except him. So one time I when this happened, I asked the local temple leader, said, why does this person not laugh? Is he upset with me? He says, no, it's not nothing to do with you. He said, he's like this with everyone. I said, okay, that makes me even more worried. So Krishna consciousness is a joyful process. So then I asked him what happened. He said, then I talked with him. And he's intelligent, he asked good questions also. So I asked him, you never laughed in class. So he said, oh, I'm afraid that I may laugh for my own pleasure and not Krishna's pleasure. So if I laugh for my sense gratification, I'll get karma. I'll be bound. So I told him, don't be so karma conscious, be Krishna conscious. So it's not that we are we are not going and watching a comedy show. We are hearing Krishna Katha, and does Krishna not want us to be happy? You know, what do you think? Does Krishna not want us to be happy? Of course, Krishna wants us to be happy, isn't it? Krishna wants us to be happy, but he does not want us to be happy doing things which will eventually make us unhappy, which will take us away from. See, parents want children to be happy, isn't it? But if a child says, I want to eat chocolate, and that's the only thing I'll eat, then the parents won't be very happy, isn't it? Because that happiness will make the child unhappy in the future. Tooth will get spoiled, health will get spoiled. But if there's some healthy food that the child likes, the child is maybe one particular subject the child likes, one particular kind of dal the child likes, and a child enjoys eating that. Will a mother not be pleased by that? She'll be happy to see her child eating happily, isn't it? So Krishna is happy to see us happy. It is not that making Krishna happy means requires making us unhappy. It's a very distorted philosophy. So making Krishna happy does not mean making ourselves unhappy. So if Krishna has given us some gifts, it is not that we have to reject or surrender doesn't mean doing the things we don't like to do. No, sometimes as a service we may have to do things which we don't like to do also. But the idea is that we don't have a dvesha. If we have desha, what will happen is we will we will lose or neglect our gifts. And God has given us our gift so that we can make a contribution in the world. So we don't want to lose our humility, but at the same time, the the world shouldn't lose what we can offer through our gifts. Each one of us can offer something. It may be small, it may be big, but that also we don't want. So that's why in between these two, in between raga and dvesha is what we said is that we acknowledge our ability, but we don't let it become our identity. It is a part of me. It is not the whole of me. So here he says, this is the whole of me. This is who I am. I'm a musician, I'm no one else. I'm a devotee who is using music in Krishna's service.
So, not a part of me at all.
We want to avoid both these extremes of raga and dvesha. Then we can use our ability so that we can do good in the world and we can serve Krishna. We can actually serve Krishna and do the good that Krishna wants us to do through the abilities that he has given us.
I'll summarize what we discussed.
Okay, so we discussed four main points today.
First point is we started discussing conditionings and how when Krishna is speaking
About give up
what does repression accomplish? He's not talking about he's not talking about vasana. So what are the examples of vasana? So lust, greed, anger, kama, krodha, lobha will be vasana. And what is the other thing? Vritti. Vritti is basically inclination. So Brahman, Kshatriya. So vasana needs to be regulated.
vritti needs to be
Directed. Excellent. And both of these are means to purify it. That is the first point we discussed.
and the second point we discussed was about when we are talking about
Conditionings. What does conditioning means? Basically, it is the way conditions affect our behavior.
so in certain conditions we will tend to behave in a particular ways. So the Pandavas, when they saw the weapons, immediately they were attracted to that. An alcoholic, when they see the bar, immediately they're attracted to that. So now this is just the basically this is just the way our body mind machine functions.
So we need to become aware of our body mind machine. This is how it is, this is how it functions.
So we understand conditioning, and then how do we address the conditioning? So we discussed that we are focusing more on our particular varna.
So to understand the varna,
We don't have to simply put ourselves into
a box of I'm a Brahmana or I'm Kshatriya.
We look at two things. What are the two things?
Guna and so guna means content. So what is it that I feel satisfied doing? And then karma is competent. So what is it that I am good doing? And if you can find the intersection between these two, now this could be our defining gift. And we could use this.
So self-observation to look at ourselves to find out how we can use our defining gift.
The last part we discussed was
About when we are using this gift.
so attitude to our gift is that we don't have raga where it becomes our whole identity. It becomes our whole self, our whole life. On the other hand, is there's no dvesha. That is no part of me. Like a cricketer wanting to retire. I don't want anything to do with cricket because I get frustrated.
No, frustration will come.
So we see it as a part of me and I use it appropriately. I direct it in service. So that way, our ability
Because of our ability, we won't lose our humility. That way, the world won't lose the benefit that can come to the world from our ability. We can contribute and we can move closer to Krishna, seeing the ability
as a gift. It's a part of me. It is a gift given to me by Krishna.
So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So are there any questions? Yes, bro. Right.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the wonderful lecture. I just have a question like you're talking about a varna, like you don't have to suppress the like your gandhi varnas, like your inclinations. But I will, but while studying the like Ramayana, there comes the character Vishwamitra, who actually like being a Kshatriya, he tried to imitate Brahmana and ultimately achieve the status of like Rajrishi and Brahmarishi. So what that like
See, those are exceptions. See,
how
nothing in the material world. So the question is that Did Vishwamitra go beyond his conditioning and from a Kshatriya he became a Brahmana? Yes, he did. The key point is that nothing in this world, nothing material is absolutely fixed. There are certain things which are variable. So he had to perform a lot of austerity to do that. Can everybody else perform that austerity? Does everyone necessarily have that much level of desire? Maybe, maybe not. So it's difficult. Sometimes a person may get a very strong desire and maybe they're able to do it. But in most cases, it's unlikely to happen. So the point is that we acknowledge that there is a certain starting point we have. And then from that starting point, each person has to desire. If I want to go somewhere else, how much effort is required? Is it worth it? So if somebody has some reason for doing something very strongly, then they may put in that effort. Say somebody is good at medicine, but say there is a lot of discrimination because of that person being a particular caste or a particular race or a particular religion, and that person just can't practice medicine because of that. As a hypothetical case. So then that person decides that I will go into law and I will fight against this. So now, is that possible? Well, the natural talent is towards medicine, but circumstantially, that situation comes up, and that person learns that. Now, was law their original calling, or was medicine their calling? Well, they have to decide that. Sometimes some people can be competent in many things, but there's one thing they naturally happily do, another thing they have to do it effortfully. So we don't have to think of conditioning as absolutely frozen. The point Krishna is saying is just because one role in life becomes uncomfortable, don't just run away from it. So we should decide what to do based on our responsibility, on the contribution that we are going to make, not just based on the discomfort that you're facing. So, Kshatriya duty is very uncomfortable. So I don't want to do it. No, that's not the point. So we want to, when we make our decisions, it should be based primarily on how I can make the best contribution. It should not be based on what gives me the most comfort in the sense of, oh, this makes me uncomfortable, so I'll give it up. Everything in life will make us uncomfortable sometime or the other, isn't it? That is the nature of life. Any other questions? Yes, please.
So sometimes it happens that when we are doing some activity, we don't like it doing for some time, even though we may be good at it, but then if we do it for some time, we start to like it, but then when we stop it doing, we start disliking it for temporarily. So what does it count in?
Yeah, so if we leave it to our mind, what is my nature? The mind will say, whatever you are doing right now, that is not your nature. See, the mind is always dissatisfied with something or the other. So even if we go to heaven, the mind will say, yeah, but that's why we can't just look at the flickering emotions. We can look at it overall. If somebody, sometimes people ask, that am I happy? Well, are you happy? I'm often asked this question in America. You say this is a path of happiness. Are you happy? So I often say happiness is a journey. And my overall happiness level is much more than what it was when before I started this path. But it's not that happiness is a destination that you have attained. It's an ongoing journey. So it's like a happiness level. So we have to look at there will always be like a sine wave ups and downs. But within that ups and downs, so it's like when doing one activity, there is up and down. But another activity also there is up and down. But that up and down is up, isn't it? So if you consider the overall happiness level, the happiness level varies. So we need to look at overall happiness level, not just the flickering emotions that we experience at particular times. In the activity.
Between Raga and Dvesh का like थोड़ा सा और explain आप कर सकते हैं क्या? Like थोड़ा सा confused है.
Okay. So can I explain Raga and Dvesha a bit more? Mm, I think everybody has Raga for Prasad and they will have Dvesh towards your question now. Okay. So I'll answer this question. After that, we can stop. Mm. So basically, we all have likes and dislikes. And sometimes we can't really rule those likes and dislikes. Like, say somebody says, some people we just like naturally, and some people we dislike naturally. Now, if this happens extremely, say when people fall in love, this is, if you ask somebody, why do you love this person? They can give some answer. You can say, that same thing can apply to 100 other people, isn't it? Oh, this person looks so good, this person behavior like this person this. Well, is it necessarily unique to that person? Not necessarily. So the point is that sometimes we can't really control our emotions.
Hmm? So we could say our feelings or emotions. We can't rule them.
We can't rule them in the sense that we just feel in a particular way. So if we consider, say, the body to be like the mind to be like the body, both of them are tools for us to function in the world. So for example, if say one of you say okay, has come now new for this program, and you tell the person who has brought you here, I'm feeling cold. And that person says, don't feel cold. What do you mean, don't feel cold? Feeling cold is not a choice. I'm feeling cold. So, just like cold is a sensation, we can't control that. Similarly, we may dislike someone, we may like someone. That's also an emotion. That's not in our control. But even if you say, I'm feeling cold, then that person will say, okay, this class only over for 10-15 minutes. Can you manage to tolerate it? And we will take you to a room with a heater or we'll give you some sweater or something like after that. Yeah, 10-15 minutes I can manage.
So the point is, we can't rule our feelings, but we can't let them rule us also.
We can't let them rule us also. So, for example, say if somebody has leprosy on their face, and when you see it for the first time, we might be taken aback, we might be shocked. But if we are cultured, if we are well mannered, we won't show that on our face, isn't it? So, just because I get a particular feeling, now we can't avoid feeling that shock, especially if if we know nobody had warned us about it, we didn't know what to expect. We'll be shocked, but we will try not to show it on our face as much as possible. So, like that, with respect to our feelings, there is an involuntary or uncontrollable aspect to it. But there is also a controllable aspect. Now, just because we don't like someone, now does that mean that we can't work with them? No, we may not like them, but maybe if we have a job with them, if we have a service with them, we do it in over a period of time, we may find more things to like about them, which we didn't find initially. So there is,
So with respect to feelings, there is what you could call as an involuntary emotion, but there is also a voluntary decision.
voluntary decision. So, for example, when Bhima was in the Draupadi's Swayamvar arena, that time all the kings started attacking Drupada. They said, you brought all of us for your daughter's Swayamvar, and now instead of us, you are giving your daughter to a Brahmin. You have insulted the Kshatriya class. And we will teach you lesson so that no other king will dare to insult the Kshatriya class like that. And they all started charging through Drupada. Drupada was a powerful king, but all these kings simultaneously coming toward him. He shrank back. At that time, Yudhishthira said, he's our father-in-law, it's our duty to protect him. So immediately, Arjuna grabbed a bow from nearby. Now, Bhima was looking around and Bhima saw a huge tal tree. And he said, he was so eager. He had been a Brahmana for so long. So he was about to run towards that tree and to uproot that tree. And then immediately Yudhishthira said, Bhima, if you uproot that tree, everyone will come to know that you are Bhima. Because nobody else can do it. So he says, please find a more ordinary weapon. So the idea is that there might be some natural inclination. When he wants to fight, Bhima wants to fight, he also wants to fight in an extraordinary way. It's like, I don't just want to win, I want to know something. So that kind of rag might be there. But he's able to regulate it. Yudhishthira says, we are undercover right now. We're incognito. Don't blow our cover right now. So he understood that. So there will be a natural attraction and aversion that will be there. Natural like and dislike will be there for all of us. But we can't just force it away. It will be naturally there. As I said, we can't rule over it. Sorry, we can't rule it out in one sense. But at the same time, we can't let it rule over us. Okay, it is there. It can play a role in my life. And then sometimes I can show it, sometimes I don't show it. Isn't it? So it depends. So that's the meaning of raga and dvesha. Our likes and dislikes. We don't let them control our responsibilities. So our duty, our responsibility, our dharma. So raga and dvesha does not control that. We will feel that. Like a Kshatriya will protect everyone. But there are some people a Kshatriya may naturally want to protect. There's some people who may not feel like protecting them. But it's my duty, I'll protect them. Right? So that raga and dvesha will be there. One of my friends is a doctor who works in emergency, works in Chicago. So he says that Chicago is, at least he works in the hospital, which is in the high crime part. So he says many times there are criminals who are shot either in gang wars or they're shot by the police. And sometimes when these people come in, you already know them because they are police on the lookout for them and their photos are there. So if somebody has committed some terrible crimes, at that time when they have come, part of me feels, let him die. He's done such crime, let him die. But then I have to remember that is not my decision. I'm a doctor and this is the patient. If he has to die, that is a judge's decision. So that raga and dvesha, you can't let it come in the way of performing your duty. Is it clear? So thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.